Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the one-stop shop for everything Phillies and baseball related. I'm your host, Ethan Rauch, owner of the Phillies United Instagram account, and today I am acquainted with my co-host, Ben Gendron, and we present you Keeping the Faith, a Phillies United podcast, now episode 7. Welcome, Ben. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back. I didn't know if you were going to be on it. I was thinking I might have to do this solo, but I'm glad you didn't have anything going on tonight, so we're able to get this recorded.
Yep.
Yeah. So there hasn't been much news going on, although recently the Phillies did sign someone, which we will dive into in just a little bit. Mostly the hot stove has been the cold stove instead of hot. Off season's been kind of slow, of course. We're all looking forward to spring training, as always. Harper, Machado still unsigned. And speaking of Harper and Machado, they are the main topic of this podcast. But before we jump into that, once again, I want to thank you all for continuing to tuning in. All your nice messages, kind messages, the likes, the views. I love it. Thank you all for listening. I do this for you. I love talking Phillies with all of you, giving my insight and making sure you all are keeping the faith alongside Ben and I and staying updated with the Phillies as we do. As so far, we have had a great off season. Absolute great off season so far, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it's been definitely surprising. I did not expect us to make this many moves. I expected us to make less moves and bigger signings, but I'm very happy with the players that we've acquired so far.
And we have spent so far, which, again, I'll dive into later on. Our payroll has gone up. We still have room for the superstar, which really at this point we should sign one of the superstars, which for the third time I'll dive into later on. But yeah, that's it for the intro. Now we're gonna dive into the signing recently. If you haven't heard about this, I don't know how, unless you're. I don't want to insult anyone unless you're living under a rock. But the Phillies have signed late inning reliever. You can call him a closer if you want. David Robertson, formerly a Chicago White Sox and New York Yankee. Now, Ben, initially, what did you think of this deal? What do you think?
Well, I am happy with the deal, but I felt like there were better options to sign. When Robertson is a proven closing pitcher, which we need, he is 33 years old, and we did pay him a hefty amount. I mean, not a lot, but for a 33-year-old pitcher that hasn't closed in 2 years, I mean, you don't know what you're going to get. I would have rathered a Zach Britton, 2 years younger.
Maybe. Adam
Ottavino.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with those guys, you get younger pitchers, even though Ottavino and Britton have been injured over the past couple of seasons. I would rather take the risk with a younger lefty than have the old, wily veteran in Robertson, who I think will still be great for us. But I think it could have been better, but it's definitely not the worst option.
Yeah, it's not a worst option. In fact, it's probably a good option compared to the other ones on the market. Now, of course, we probably would have preferred someone like Ottavino, who was great last year for the Colorado Rockies, or Zach Britton, of course. But the one thing I found interesting is Zach Britton, with his injury history, was looking for a 4-year deal, and the Phillies they've been keen on signing these relievers to 2-year deals, as we all know, or may not know or may not remember. But we signed Tommy Hunter and Pat Neshek to those 2-year deals, and now we signed David Robertson to a 2-year deal. I feel like it's something we're kind of comfortable with. This ownership is comfortable with. I can't speak apparently. Comfortable with signing these relievers to 2-year deals. Now,
I just want to say one more thing. I was very, very happy with the way that he reacted to his signing on his Twitter. He was very happy to come to Philadelphia. He was very positive, very upbeat. Really looked like he wanted to be a part of this organization.
Yeah, he's just a great person overall. You just love how he mentioned charity, of course. He's just a great person, great pitcher too. Now, the deal is 2 years, of course, guaranteed $23 million with the 3rd-year option. I think it's pretty solid. He looks like the type of pitcher who can pitch into his old age, kind of like that J Happ on the starting pitching side. I feel like he is going to be still very productive by the end of his tenure as a Philadelphia Philly. Although he is going to be 34 by opening day, if my mind serves me correct. Now, I found this interesting quote from NBC Sports Philadelphia, written by, it was either Jim Salisbury or Corey Simon. Great great analysts. I love following them. I love following their Phillies input. They really know a lot, and they're very connected to the Phillies. So you should probably follow them on social media. Get the latest input from them. Really smart dudes. This quote was over the last 6 seasons, David Robertson has pitched in 385 games and recorded an ERA of 2.83 and a WHIP of 1.04 while averaging 11.9 strikeouts per inning per 9 innings. Now, if you don't know anything about baseball, I'll put it in simpler terms. That's pretty good. That's
Those are very
pretty
good
freaking good.
numbers.
Pretty freaking good. He's been consistent. Although he hasn't been closing much because of Aroldis Chapman with the Yankees, he has closing history. So if we need to go into him in the 9th inning in a tight situation, he can do that. He's your late inning guy.
Yeah. But
And
I think he is very helpful with someone like Sir Anthony Dominguez with guiding him. Pat Neshek is old. He was never really a closer in his career. When Robertson has 4 or 5 seasons of closing under his belt, he could really help Sir Anthony mold into our future closer.
yeah, and now the vibe I've been getting and some other people I've been getting off this, reading through Twitter, Instagram, all that, is that the Phillies aren't going to be looking for David Robertson to be their closer, everyday closer, like someone like Craig Kimbrell would have to be if they signed him on. And now this falls into the Gabe Kapler mindset. Like last year, as you saw, we did not have a set closer. Now I was one of the people who were kind of iffy about it at the beginning. I didn't like having these guys come in different spots in the game, like having Hector Neris pitch the 5th inning and then the 9th inning, like two days later. Like I wasn't really a fan of that, but as you see, it kind of worked out well. We upgraded 14 wins over the 2017 to 2018, and I feel like as these guys mature, they're going to be more used to Kapler's managing style, which was one of the reasons we fell so hard last year. These guys weren't used to a managing style like Gabe Kapler, and they're all so young. So that was one of the reasons we fell so hard. So not even just the relievers, all the players are, and now that we have older players as well, more seasoned players, they're going to be used to Gabe Kapler's managing style, which is going to be a great upside for this season. Now back to the bullpen. Again, he's a late inning reliever. David Robertson can pitch 6, 7, 8, 9, any of those innings, high leverage situations. Now with the no set closer, I've gotten, of course, the vibe that we're going to be using Hector Neris, Sir Anthony Dominguez, and David Robertson in the high leverage situations, depending on matchups, which I'm perfectly fine with. I don't think at this point, due to like Sir Anthony's problems last year, he's still very young. He still has a great upside. I still see him as the future of this Phillies bullpen. I'm not that comfortable with him being the everyday closer though yet. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I don't think I'm very comfortable with Dominguez. I mean, you saw last season, he had like this amazing 14-game stretch where he had a 0 ERA, and then you saw the batters starting to catch up to his 99-mile-per-hour fastball, and you saw him struggle when he couldn't blow that by batters anymore. And also, I just want to touch a little bit more on Robertson. Robertson's pitch style is very unique. He has this sort of like knuckle curve pitch that throws lefties off guard. So he's a very good right-handed pitcher that can pitch to lefties, and I think that was something that Kepler really liked about him.
Yeah, he has great stats against lefties. He's one of those reverse pitchers who has great stats against the reversed batter hitting against the other side, which is it's rare. It's rare these days. Again, one incredibly well stat which I saw is that Robertson did very, very well against 3, 4, 5 hitters last year. Hitters went 4 for 54 against them, hitting
That's crazy.
Hitting in those positions, which is insane.
Yeah,
you don't
that
see
is
that.
Insane.
You don't see that ever. And now to finish off the Robertson thing with this move. Of course, it gives you another veteran to rely on in that bullpen, but it also crowds the bullpen a little bit.
Like, it does.
I've been making like these bullpen templates with like 8 or 9 bullpenners, and like 9 is a stretch for bullpen. You usually have like 7 or 8, if I recall correctly. But even like having 9 people in that, it's still crowded. I'm still forced to leave someone out, like Adam Morgan or Ederby Ramos, just to say a few.
Yeah, Luis Garcia might be on the chopping block.
Oh, we traded Luis Garcia.
Oh yeah, he was in
That's
the
one of the.
Bezos
That's one of
trade.
the. We
Yeah,
got him for Jose Alvarez from the Angels. That's one of the trades like people
yeah.
forget to like mention a lot. Like people
I
have said
forgot
like
about. Yeah, I remember talking about him. I totally forgot we traded Luis
yeah,
Garcia.
like people like say like Phillies have only made like a few moves. Like people just forget about that awesome Luis Garcia trade getting Jose Alvarez, who is incredibly well against lefties, and he's a lefty himself, which
Yes,
I can see him like replacing someone like Adam Morgan, who we could probably get some trade value because he's so young and he still has an upside apparently. So maybe something like include a few of those bullpenners who, with the crowded bullpen, get a young prospect, couple young prospects maybe. Who knows? I have trust in Clentac to get the job done. Now, to briefly mention the payroll now. I mentioned in the intro, Phillies payroll. To start out the 2018 season, we had 96 million, and of course we all knew about how little we had attached to the current roster then, but now this was a doozy for me. I was very surprised at this. After all these acquisitions, after the David Robertson 1-2, and all the player benefits, all that good stuff, Phillies payroll reaches $156 million.
that's still not high at all.
Like that is, I know it's not high, but that's crazy to see just how far it went up, and we're not even through this all season yet. There's still
I
so much
know.
we could do, and that it went up so high. Like if you sign a Harper Machado, that's basically guaranteed 30 million. It's 186. Like we haven't seen a payroll like that since the days of like 2011 when we were actually in the postseason.
I
Like
know,
that
and that
is
just shows
crazy.
how low we were. We were
Yeah,
extremely low.
yeah, we were for a team like us in a big market, we were very low. But you'd expect that with a team coming off a rebuild. And with that, it does make the signing of both Machado slash Harper more unlikely if it wasn't unlikely enough. Because if you sign both of them, let's say both are gonna in my eyes, gonna get 30 million a year. That's 60 million. You're going to go over the luxury tax, and that is something we do not want to do.
What? No,
We do not
not at
want to
all.
do that. So at this point, I'm gonna say we're not signing both. It's not
No,
happening.
no way.
Not likely to happen. That's that for the payroll. Hopefully, we'll increase it by 30 million with the acquisition of one of those players, which we'll be talking about right now: Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. Now, with the slow market, these guys have been the main stars of the offseason, as we all know. We've been waiting on them to sign. They've been waiting on us,
Yeah.
apparently, something like that. But actually, not that long ago, I was talking to some other fans, Phillies fans, and I actually made a list. Now, Ben, I told you this before the podcast. I made a list about Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, pros slash cons for each, how they would fit here. I'm going to list each pro con, and if you want to say something, you can just barge in on me and say something.
Okay.
But that's the surprising thing before I even jump into the list is that for both of them, it was a very similar amount of pros and cons, which was wow. It's crazy that like both these players have equally amount of pros and cons. Well, at least in my eyes, really, you're going to go different directions with each player, but they both add so much to the team. It's crazy. Like you got to get one of these guys. You have to. Now, to start off with Bryce Harper, my pros for Bryce Harper were first one, arguably one of the biggest names in baseball. That's a pro automatically. He's a power lefty that our lineup lacks. We do not have that go-to power lefty. I'm sorry, Nick Williams is not it. Cesar Hernandez is not it. Bryce Harper is it. Now, getting Harper will most certainly push Williams out of an everyday role, while Machado would push Franco out of his role as well. Now, I do feel more comfortable with a combination of Harper slash Franco rather than Machado slash Williams. Ben, what do you think about that?
I do think right now I do feel more comfortable with Franco than Williams, but I would not be surprised if you see if we sign Machado, I know everybody wants him to play at third, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting a decent amount of starts at short with Segura playing at second and
Oh
Franco
yeah,
playing at third.
you could see that. Like, although I don't see it as likely because like it's kind of been made clear, not directly, but it's kind of been made clear throughout rumors and stuff that we do not want to trade Cesar Hernandez because it was found out that he was playing on a broken foot towards the end of the season, and we're optimistic about him returning to his old Cesar Hernandez stuff. And like, I was actually looking through Hernandez's stats, and he wasn't even half bad
Yeah,
before the injury. Like throughout his career, he wasn't even half bad. I was kind of underestimating him for his career. He's actually a pretty all right option, but yeah, I do feel more comfortable with Harper slash Franco rather than Machado slash Williams. Moving on, our ballpark is very hitter friendly, and Bryce already has great stats at this place. Now, silly me, I did not write down the stats, but if you want to look that up for yourself, they're pretty good, pretty damn good, and you can just imagine how many home runs, how many RBI he would have playing at Citizens Bank Park for 81 games a year. It would be absurd. Fans would absolutely love him. Now, from what I've seen, may be different for you, Ben, but I've seen the majority of the fan base wanting Harper more than Machado. Is that the same
yes.
for you?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Again, Bryce already has the great stats at the place. I'm just reading off my list at this point. Fans, he's projected for a great future, and this is the same for Machado. They're both projected for a great future because of how young they are and what they've done already. His market does seem to be smaller than Machado's, although there's brief updates about that. This was written like a week ago or so, and things have happened since then, but we'll cover that in a little bit. Now, of course, there's cons with Bryce Harper. His recent down year, 2018, was a down year for him, and he had a production on a lower tier than Machado. He has a harder time hitting lefties, something we struggled with last year. Harper is obviously less of a defensive upgrade than Machado would be at third base. Now, this is not recently that I've seen, but actually he did have an incident last year. He had a little bit of anger. If you remember
Yes,
the
I was going to address that.
Hunter Strickland thing, which was cool to watch, but you
Yeah.
gotta be wary about that. Although I don't think it should be anything that prevents us from getting Bryce Harper. You just gotta note that. And although this is minor, he's one of the few hitters who consistently has a shift put on him, which could affect his approach, his some way, could affect his ability to be consistent hitter on the team. Although I don't see that as a big problem. Now that's just to tally it up. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is 7 pros for Bryce Harper. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 5 cons I came up with for Manny Machado. About what do you think about my list?
I have one more thing to add about a con for Harper. He's not a average hitter,
Oh
which
yeah,
is I'm not like he's an above average player, but he's not an average, like he doesn't hit for average.
yeah,
I mean, if you look at his career average, it's probably in the 250s, 240s, but you'll see the high 30 home runs and the 100 RBIs. Just you don't know if he'll be able to come through in those clutch situations, which his average would like depend on. When if you had Machado, who's a 300 high 200 hitter, you can see more consistent on base and rely on him more in clutch situations.
yeah. Now speaking of Machado, he's the next one we will cover right here. Now my pro list for Manny Machado, he is the better offensive player than Bryce Harper, as you just mentioned. His defense can be top tiered if he's at third base. Yet to see a shortstop. That's if he's playing shortstop here. In my opinion, he has a good type of cocky attitude. I'll get into the postseason stuff in a little bit with the cons, but before all that, I felt like he had a good type of cocky attitude. He opens the door to a potential Franco trade, who does have a high stock coming off a career year for him, and one potential destination I see for Maikel Franco is the San Diego Padres with their amazing farm. I would love to get at least 1 or 2 of those prospects from them. It would be great. It leaves the outfield more open, potentially for future additions or call-ups. I mentioned Adam Hazley. Although he's in the minor leagues, of course, he is one of our top prospects who will be up sooner rather than later. Potential September call-up, even if you want to do that, be that optimistic, but he's projected to be a very good player in this organization. He is someone who can hit lefties, something we had struggles with last year, as mentioned above, and he is projected for a great future. He's only 26 years old. For cons, of course, you got to know the attitude. Hustle comments. I'm not Johnny Hustle. I'm not going to sprint down to first base on little ground ball comments he made during the postseason. Can't really be called spiking. He didn't spike anyone, but his on-field behavior during the postseason, sliding into Orlando Arcia, I remember, knocking up Jesus Aguilar's leg, not running on the long single, just to mention a few. Our fans, although they are very passionate, they are very quick to judge players. It makes you think, will the fans like Manny Machado? Now, I do think if Manny Machado wins us games, people won't really care about the attitude that much. I'm thinking this because we had someone like Jimmy Rollins who was fast, but he often had his times with struggle with hustle. I remember one time he got pulled out of the game because he didn't hustle down the first base. That was during the Charlie Manuel days. I do not see his Manny Machado's hustle being that big of a problem, but yeah, I had to mention on the cons because it's something you have to consider about that.
I want to address that, and I think that is the biggest point in Manny Machado, and that's why I think he will not be coming here, because I think Kepler will not put up with his attitude. I think Kepler will not put up with his no hustle, no Johnny Hustle thing, and I think that Kepler doesn't like him, and he won't like him as a player, and I don't think that Quintac is going to force Machado on Kepler. And I think Kepler is going to say it's either Machado or me, and they're going to pick Kepler, and Machado won't be here.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
If I was speaking truthfully, I think the kind of the stuff he did in the postseason inexcusable, but I think it was kind of overblown. The hustle comments, they were taken out of context, although they're still bad, still taken out of context nonetheless. Manny Machado was pretty all right before the postseason, but doing that stuff in October, it really just makes it bigger than how it would have been during regular season. I don't see that as a problem. I just saw it as a dumb moment for him. He was just a young guy, probably thinking too much about winning a World Series, how that would do for his stock coming up in the off season. The young guy did something stupid. He's cocky. Cocky players sometimes do things stupid. It's something to consider. I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue here. Although I do see him if he does one. If he doesn't hustle on this little ground ball, which we all know he's going to be out, but he doesn't hustle. Maybe I don't see him getting pulled. I don't think Kepler would do that. I just don't see that happening. I don't think Kepler's that type of manager. Although unless it's really bad, really bad, and happens a lot, which I don't think is going to happen.
You saw some of it with Odubel Herrera last season.
Yeah.
I mean, Kepler was no hesitation to bench him when you saw he was not hustling.
I think it's just different because of the I don't want to sound kind of biased, but Manny Machado, he's a top tier player, and Odubel,
I don't think he cares.
Again, it's too early to tell. Honestly, if I was speaking, I don't think it's gonna be that much of a problem. But again, it's too early to tell. It could go Ben's way, it could go my way, it could go in the middle for all we know. And this is if we get Machado. It's if.
Exactly.
If we get Machado. Now, moving on, it sets our lineup to be very right-handed with Williams, Odubel, and Cesar Hernandez all coming off subpar years, just to mention, being the only left-handed. I would prefer Harper's lefty bat, but I do think Machado, of course, is a better player. And his market at this point is a bit larger than Harper's, with the Yankees' notable interest along with the White Sox. Now, this is, again, I wrote this a week ago, and just to mention the amounts for each, 7 for pros and 5 for cons. That is an exact replica of my Bryce Harper. I did not do that intentionally. I had 7 pros for him, 5 cons for him. I did not that was a very big surprise to me. Although it seems little, it just seems how similar these players are in the talent. Like you could see that. Now, just brief for Machado news. A potential Machado suitor in the New York Yankees. They did sign Troy Tulowitzki to league minimum like $500K because he was released, 1-year deal. He hasn't played in a while, but like he used to be one of the best shortstops, if not the best shortstop in the game, before injuries hit him. And I think the Yankees are banking on him returning to like not the prime form he was. I don't think he's ever going to return to the prime, but at least being a good, solid player until Didi Gregorius returns. And there were a few comments by Cashman about Manny, about Troy Tulowitzki. They're expecting Troy Tulowitzki to be their opening day shortstop. So now the people are speculating: are they going to trade Miguel Andujar now, or move him to first base so they have Manny play third? With more and more news about this type of stuff, it makes me think Machado and the Yankees is less likely, although it's still a very big possibility due to his connection with the Yanks and being a fan of them, Alex Rodriguez, just for an example. Yeah, but now, he was offered a contract from the White Sox, although not confirmed. Speculation, it might have been closer to $200 million than $300 million, so it's not anything to worry about. He is Manny Machado with his market, Phillies, Yankees, White Sox. He's going to get at least $300 million. I see it happening.
I do.
And the industry. What are you gonna say?
I think that the whole thing about the Tulowitzki ad was to benefit Gleyber Torres and Miguel Andujar.
Yeah.
For Tulowitzki, kind of just to teach them, give them tips about how to progress their career.
Yeah. And to me, Troy Tulowitzki is their obvious backup plan if they don't get Machado, and just having them sign him so early, I think it kind of shows like they may not be as like confident in getting Machado than we might have thought. Because like there were rumors the Yankees weren't even going to $300 million in 10 years, which Machado does want. So who knows? Maybe the Yankees just don't want him enough. Who knows? And now, of course, the industry does expect Manny Machado to sign before Bryce Harper. As of when? Hopefully soon. I want to get this over with. I'm kind of done at this point. I just want the season to start, and I'm at that point.
Yeah, me too.
Now, Bryce Harper. This is kind of more controversial, I guess. He is meeting with the Phillies next week, which is great. It's great that we're going to meet with Harper in person with Boris. Absolutely great. Now, there have been rumors, I think they started today, might have started yesterday a little bit, but that the Nationals have met with Bryce Harper for 5 hours before Xmas, and that they have offered more than $300 million, quoting, much more. Now, Ben, I don't know if you heard about this, but what are your initial thoughts about this?
I don't want to say it's a bluff, but I still don't see him going back to Washington.
Yeah.
I don't think it's big enough for him.
Yeah, I don't see Bryce Harper returning to the Nationals, although it's a possibility. It's, of course, a possibility. I myself, based off all of what I know, what I've seen, what I've read, what I've talked about on here and my Instagram page, I do not see Bryce Harper returning to the Washington Nationals. Going to make that clear. I don't see it happening. Now, as to why, I wrote a little list about why, just to sum my ideas up. First off, the Nationals are incredibly close to the tax, although their owner is known to be have quite a bit of money, just like our owner. The tax is, although it's small, teams usually don't like to go over it because if you're over the tax for multiple years in a row, that the penalties keep stockpiling. Eventually, you're losing millions of dollars in prospects. Teams don't want that to happen. And although some teams don't really care about it, Yankees haven't really cared, Dodgers haven't really cared, I don't see the Nationals as this because they need help in other areas such as their bullpen. Although they did add, I forget who they added. They did add someone. I know they added Kyle Barraclaw. They added someone else. It's still not good. Their bullpen is still not. They do have Sean Doolittle, but their bullpen still isn't the best. They could benefit from someone else. And of course, with the rotation, they do have those 3 top: Strasburg, Scherzer, Corbin now, who are being paid over $100 million each, I believe. Again, just doesn't help them financially. And of course, the Phillies are in a much better position to land Harper with our need for an impact bat. The fan base looking to kill Matt Klentak if we don't get him.
Yeah.
and the amount of money we have to spend, although it's smaller now, of course, but we still have plenty of room for Bryce Harper. Plenty of room. Now, what I've been thinking is there weren't really rumors, but what I've been thinking is the Nats news could have been revealed by themselves or Scott Boras trying to work the market. Of course, Boras is known to be mischievous about this working the market or releasing fake news about that. Reason why I think the Nationals might have, because it is common knowledge. It's common knowledge. You don't have to read anything. You just gotta know. Why would the Nationals want or be okay with Bryce Harper coming to a division rival in the Philadelphia Phillies? There's no reason. They don't want him coming here. So if I was being honest, I see these reveal. I do believe he met with the Nationals. I believe that is true. I don't believe it was to offer him something huge like $350 million at $375 going. I don't think it's going to go up there, but just adding this in the situation I'm trying to speak of. I don't think it went up to that. I don't think they offered big. I think the meeting was just about just normal stuff like, hey, is there a way we could make this work? Is there a way we could get you back? I don't see it, because I don't think the Nationals are going above $300 million. Their owner or general manager, I forget who, one of those guys openly said like $300 million was the best we could do, and this was before they signed Patrick Corbin to the $146 million deal. Or $140 million deal. This was before all that. I believe it was before all that. So like, what? Like, of course, because it's his team he's been with for his career. Of course, you're gonna think they have a shot at getting him, but with their situation, like, you don't see like Phillies did it because we had a trigger happy general manager in Ruben Amaro. Teams don't usually do this. Teams don't usually cripple themselves with these big contracts unless they're the Yankees. Like, the only team you see that is the Yankees, and it actually worked out for them because Brian Cashman is a great general manager. He did it with the right people. Although Harper, you could say he's the right person in the Nationals' position. It's not to their benefit if they sign Bryce Harper. It would help them, but it's not to their benefit long term. I don't see it happening. I see Bryce wanting a new outlook. I don't see him seeing himself win in the Washington. He never got past the divisional round there. He loves the place, though. I think he wants to win. In my opinion, Philly, this is kind of being biased, but someone like Philly, you have a much better winning now than the Washington Nationals. Although the rotation is better, we have the better overall team, in my opinion, than the Washington Nationals. Now, based off all the rumors, speculation, Phillies do make the most sense with how limited Harper's market is. He's not going to LA. Their outfield is crowded with lefties. They're close to the Tex. They want to stay under. He's not going to the Yankees. Their outfield is crowded. Cubs cannot afford him. White Sox, there's been rumors about their primary focus on Machado and their limit on how much they want to spend. That leaves Nationals, Phillies. And I just listed why Nationals wouldn't work. Now with Phillies, it makes perfect sense, but only if we miss on Machado. Because Machado, I do believe he's going to sign first. I think it's knowledge that he is going to most likely sign first. So if we don't get Machado, we need to get Harper. Go full in. I would do something like $375 million. I would do that.
300.
I don't see it going to that, though. I do not see it going to 375. At one point, I was thinking 450. That was stupid of me. Incredibly stupid. Because I thought Harper's market would be insane. But I just found out it's not. He doesn't have a market. His market is limited to the Dodgers, who don't want to sign for a big contract. The Cubs, who can't afford him. Yankees, who've openly said they're not in on Harper. And the Phillies and the Nationals. White Sox, who are focusing on Machado and have their spending limitations, although with their very low payroll, they've never signed someone for over $60 million. It leaves us and the Nationals. And again, I just listed all the reasons why I wouldn't work for Nationals. What I think is, going back to maybe Boras leaking that stuff, if we sign Machado, it's game over for Harper unless the Nationals really do want to cripple themselves for better half of 10 years. it's game over for Harper unless the Nationals want to do that. He won't get the contract he wants unless the Chicago somehow pulls it off, which I don't see it happening. He's going to, I said this on my Instagram page, he is only going to get the contract he wants if he signs with the Philadelphia Phillies, only if we miss on Manny Machado. That is when he's going to get the contract he wants. That is the only situation he will get the contract he desires. That's how I see it. That's how I view it. That's how my mindset has changed, but I think I'm deadlocked on here. Although I might not be right, I do believe I am very confident. I'm very open about this. I'm, again, very confident that this is how it is. Unless someone can somehow explain to me otherwise how Bryce is a better fit for Washington, how he's more likely to sign there than us. Philly is the place where Bryce